Welcome to Faith and Freedom. For the next few minutes, we hope to inform, inspire, and encourage you as we discuss the legal victories and challenges to your fundamental freedoms and religious liberties. Faith and Freedom comes to you from Liberty Counsel, a civil liberties education and legal defense organization. Join us now as Matt Staver, the President and General Counsel of Liberty Counsel, explains the latest legal issues all across this country in the courtrooms of America. Liberty Counsel is winning the battle for your constitutional freedoms.
I recently returned from Israel. We'll talk about it today on Faith and Freedom. Hi, I'm Matt Staver, founder and chairman of Liberty Counsel. Joining me is Matt Barber, vice president of Liberty Counsel Action. Matt, I was over there for the Restoring Courage event in Israel, and we had an event in Caesarea Maritima, which is on the Mediterranean. That was on Sunday night, and that stadium was packed with people. John Hagee was one of the individuals who spoke, and he was the keynote final speaker. He did a great job. But it was in Caesarea Maritima where the Apostle Paul was being tried, and he appealed to Caesar, and from there he went over to Rome on a boat, and that's how the gospel got to Rome. So it was an amazing event to be there. And then finally, the last night was August the 24th on a Wednesday, and that was right outside of the southern wall of the old city, and that was packed as well. That was quite an amazing event. That's where I had the pleasure of being able to introduce several categories of award winners or honorees for faith, hope, and charity who had persisted against incredible adversity and sought to bring resolution and peace to the conflict in the Middle East. But these were individuals who were very courageous in some of the situations that they faced.
Well, people who listen to Glenn Beck have probably heard him talking about this event in advance of it and since it took place. The Restoring Courage event, Glenn Beck kind of organized and started it, but there were a number of organizations. Liberty Counsel, we were fortunate to get to be involved, and you had, as you mentioned, a very central role in introducing all of these individuals who really have been ambassadors and just have been strong supporters of Israel. And I think it was important that this event took place so we could show Israel, send a message to Israel that there are still a majority of us here in the United States that consider them our strongest ally, that still support Israel, which is surrounded by hostile forces that simply want to wipe it off the face of the earth. So who were some of the individuals that you got to introduce?
Well, Glenn Beck certainly brought together this amazing event, and 1,400 people traveled from the United States and around the country just to be there. Now, there were many others that came more locally, so there were several thousand people that ended up being at any one of these events at any given time. But Glenn Beck had the concluding keynote message on Wednesday. The event on Wednesday, right outside of the southern wall of the old city, was pretty historic. The mayor of Jerusalem began to speak, and he did a great job. There were some other individuals who were invited, but they had to withdraw because they were concerned with regards to safety in terms of their own safety, not at that event, but harassment that they might get outside of that event. But
for simply taking part in the event?
For simply taking part in the event, yes, that's right. Because, there's liberal and conservative there as there is here. In fact, on the following day, the Jerusalem Post had 3 articles about the event, one below the fold on the front page, very positive, and then on the first page of what would be the equivalent of the local state edition, above the fold and below the fold, 2 very positive articles. But contrast that with Haaretz, the other newspaper that is more liberal, and it had 2 articles very negative, and it was like there were 2 different worlds that they were talking about. You could not even recognize one from looking at the Haaretz. So they have the same struggles that we have here in the United States with really strong opinions on really different ideologies.
So Israel has its own version of the liberal New York Times. That's interesting.
In fact, the Haaretz newspaper makes the New York Times look like a conservative piece of material.
And that's quite a feat of nature to be able to do.
Yeah, that's pretty significant when you make that kind of comparison. But it was a great event. I got a chance to introduce the mayor of one of the local towns on behalf of a family. He was accepting an award. I got a chance to introduce a number of other people, and they came forward and they each were honored. But the fact of the matter is, the purpose of the event was to have a show of expression of people in the United States that they support and they stand with Israel. And irrespective of what our administrations may say from time to time, the people of the United States respect Israel, and they stand with Israel. Not only are we connected to Israel because of that's where we got our scriptures. All the writers of the New Testament except for one were Jewish. Jesus was a Jew. We're connected to the Jewish people. We're connected to the land of Israel. Our scriptures came from the Jewish people. And so those values that we inherit, our Judeo-Christian values that we talk about, are inextricably connected to that history. And not only do we have that connection, but Israel is our most strategic and valuable and loyal ally in the Middle East.
Well, and it goes even deeper than that. We're talking simply about showing support to Israel merely for the fact that they have a right to exist.
Yeah.
I mean, the Islamist forces that surround Israel, people like Ahmadinejad in Iran, and many countries throughout the United Nations, they would like to see Israel wiped off the face of the earth. And then we have, President Obama making statements about Israel returning to its 1967 borders, unprecedented show of I don't want to say hostility, but a lack of support for our greatest ally in the Middle East. We were there. Liberty Counsel was there. Glenn Beck was there just to say, hey, Israel, we support your right to exist.
Yeah, that's right. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, when he was here and he addressed the joint session of Congress, he said 7 words will change the course of history if they come from Mahmoud Abbas with the Palestinian Authority, and that is, I recognize Israel's right to exist. But he will not articulate those words. And so the discussion over real estate and the borders is ultimately irrelevant if, no matter what you give them, his goal of the Palestinian Authority and Iran is to simply wipe Israel off the map. I mean, you can give them 100% of the land, and if the Jews are still in existence, that's not going to satisfy them. So, I mean, the basic premise of negotiation has to begin with recognizing Israel's right to exist.
Well, and we have the United Nations here, even though the Palestinian Authority, that they will not recognize Israel's right to exist. We have the UN about to recognize a Palestinian state. They're on the verge of voting, and that could create tremendous upheaval and turmoil, add gas to an already tumultuous and incendiary situation, just dump gasoline on the fire. And we have Israel doing some war games and taking preparation from a defensive standpoint because things are really heating up in the Middle East. It's more important than ever. Israel is looking for strong allies, and the United States, having been its strongest in the past, we're headed the wrong direction. Instead of moving away from Israel in terms of our diplomacy, we need to be moving toward Israel with regard to foreign relations.
No question about that. And, on September 20, that's when the United Nations General Assembly they're scheduled to vote on whether to recognize Palestinian as a state.
Right.
If they do that, of course, it'll ultimately be vetoed by the Security Council because the United States will veto that, we are told. And but at the same time, the fact that they're even considering that could cause some significant issues for the Israeli people. It's not the Israelis that are throwing bombs into Gaza. It's the Palestinians that are throwing bombs into the southern part, and Israel has to retaliate and just protect itself. But Israel is of all the Palestinians or all the Arabs that live in the Middle East, there's about 250, 300 million that live around Israel. The only Palestinians in the Middle East that experience democracy are those that live in the borders of Israel.
They're actually living in a situation where they have freedom, yet the millions of those who are living in oppressive situations are seeking to destroy that entity that could give them freedom.
Exactly. Well, give us a call at 1-800-671-1776. We have the Patriot's Handbook on American Liberty. This comes from our New Revolution publishers, which is a branch or an arm of Liberty Counsel Action. It is the publishing arm that we have, and this is one of and I think it's our first book that we published, Patriot's Handbook on American Liberty. It has the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, and a letter from Patrick Henry, his famous speech, and an essay from me. You can call Liberty Counsel at 1-800-671-1776 to get that. You can go to the website lc.org. You can text us at 20222. Put in the subject line LC. That's 20222, subject line LC. You can also friend us on Facebook, facebook.com/Liberty Counsel. Go to the Liberty Counsel website, lc.org, for more information and to contribute directly to this ministry.
You have been listening to Matt Staver of Liberty Counsel. Our hope is to encourage and inspire you to stand up for your faith, family, and freedoms. We can accomplish a lot when we work together. Get informed and get involved today. Sign up for our free monthly newsletter, The Liberator. We will send it out to you free of charge. Stay informed with our Liberty Alert email update. Just click on the website at www.lc.org or call us at 1-800-671-1776. Tune in next time to learn more about your rights right here on Faith and Freedom.